Dr. Lisa. Welcome to my podcast. Typically, I say I'm really excited, but I'm actually not that excited today. Maybe some of you feel the same way. Of course, we had another tragedy in the United States, down in the city that I talk about, a city that helped raise me, Nashville. I lived in Nashville for a long time, 8.5 years, and like millions of Americans, I am pretty heartbroken today. So if you're just joining my podcast, welcome. I see some of you coming in. So I probably should have waited a few minutes, but hello, good afternoon or good evening, pending your time zone. So, like some of you, today has just been a sad day. Some of us are, especially those of us who are educators or work with kids, your parents, we feel some kind of way today. Like I have been on edge. I don't know about some of you. I have been sad. I shed tears this morning. I've been in the schools, right? And so I've been in the schools, and so for me, I take it personally, not just because I'm a mom, but because I have been a school psych in schools. I've taught at the university level, and today is just, I don't know. So, listen, one of the things that I did today, because, you know, psychologists are human, and I am never one to shy away from my own feelings or tell all of you, how I feel. So today, my feelings are very sad, extremely sad. Now they're sad. This morning, I was pissed off. This morning, I was angry. One of the reasons I was angry is simply because we need to do something in this country about these assault rifles. And in my opinion, nothing is being done. And we need to. So we have the same problem, thank you. We have the same problem that we had, what, the past decade or so? I don't know. So I vented on my blog this morning. I didn't put it under questions because my heading on my website for questions is dedicated to all of you. That is a spot where I'm answering your questions. So I didn't put it there. I put it on my Kids Can See Ghost page, the first page that says ready, question mark. And I went in. I did. I don't hold in my feelings. I don't encourage any of you to do that. Yeah, I probably let the lawmakers have it in that blog because I'm so tired of seeing them saying things that do not help the situation. One of the first things that they do is say, I send my condolences, I send my prayers, we're just heartbroken. I mean, it's all bullshit, if you ask me. That's exactly what it is. Because if you were really heartbroken like the rest of us, and if you really felt empathy, and you really wanted to pray and act in prayer, then what would we do? Number one, we wouldn't blame an entire population of individuals who are mentally ill and say, yeah, they had to be mentally ill. It doesn't make sense. The other thing they would not do is to say, we are praying for you with no action. Let me give you an example. I backed my crap up today. I was so mad, I started reaching out to different community members in my own area, trying to figure out what I can do. Because one of the things that I said was, I'm tired of talking about mental health, right? Which is what prompts me to do those perfume reviews, which I happen to love. And by the way, I smell good right now. But seriously, I started reaching out to try to figure out what I can do because I've been shying away from mental health in my own community because I do so much in it every day, bombarded with mental health. So I kind of want to do something different, which is why I'm a commissioner in my town, dealing with discrimination, right? After today, I said, you know what? I got to do some more stuff in mental health. It's my calling, even if I didn't want to deal with it. So some of us who actually are passionate about what's going on, who really believe that they can make a difference, that we're not just saying, I pray for you, and then not do anything about it. That's my way of doing something about it. I feel like we all need to go to DC personally and try to talk to lawmakers, talk to Congress. You know, maybe if they heard from a group of psychologists who can say, stop equating this to mental health. Maybe it'll make a difference if we can just talk. I don't know. You all tell me what you think. So that's what I wrote about this morning, with a lot of data to show, for example, that they default to mental health. A lot of data to show that it's okay for some people to hold assault rifles wrapped in the United States and threaten the doggone president. If I did it, I'd be in jail. If you did it, you'd be in jail. You understand? Bullshit. And I just call it like I see it. Anyway, if you want to comment on my website, even if you don't agree with me, that's fine. The world is not centered around me, in my opinion. You can definitely comment on my website. It's my name, Lisa Liggins, Liggins, Chambers, CHAMBERS.com. You can also comment on Google Voice, 765-205-1959. I welcome all opinions. It doesn't matter. Even if you disagree with me, I'm not changing my mind. So it is what it is. But I certainly welcome all opinions. You can also email me at kidscanseghosts@gmail.com. You can follow me on any of my social media websites, YouTube especially. I'm trying to get my YouTube numbers up. So Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook are all at Dr. Lisa 3. You can catch me there. All right, so most of you know that I actually diagnose kids with autism. I do. The other thing that I do is I get a lot of questions, so I like to answer them as best as I can. And I don't think a day goes by without a wonderful parent asking me, how do I know if my kid has autism? I did a reaction video on TikTok yesterday because I thought it was an outstanding video about the symptoms of autism in toddlers. So some of you do not know that these symptoms start really early. We can actually diagnose kids with autism, and I know this is going to shock some of you, at about 17, 18 months. I only do it if the symptoms are clear to me. If they are not clear, lack of speech skills is not enough for me that young. Now, some will argue that against me, but that's just me. And I kind of correlate also with what happens in schools. But the video that I did, the reaction was just outstanding. She was telling this mother was showing pictures of her toddler and saying, you know, hey, these are some of the symptoms that I see or I've seen in toddlers in autism in her own kids. So I did a reaction video about that because I thought it was outstanding. So yes, you can start identifying symptoms of autism in your kids as early as 17, 18 months. Okay. So I noticed a pattern. I don't think a day goes by when I don't hear a parent crying out to me, telling me, everybody told me that I was wrong. Everybody discredited me as a mom. They didn't believe me. I've had to fight for 2 and 3 years to get people to diagnose my kid with autism. I knew my kid had autism. And so here I come, and I look at the symptoms and I watch the child and I'm going, this is as clear as day. And I feel so bad that these parents are having to fight so hard for their kids to be diagnosed with autism. Trust your instincts is what I said on my blog. And now I'm saying it on the podcast because I want you all to be heard. I want you to hear me. Trust your instincts. If you think something is going on with your kid, you fight. You are your child's best advocate. Do not give up. Do not let other people tell you that you are a fool, basically, because you see symptoms that they don't. Or they tell you this. Give the child a little bit longer. When they're already 2 and 3 years old and they're showing symptoms of autism. Trust your instincts. You are frontline. You observe your own kid every day. You are the one who knows your kid better than anyone else. And I always tell parents that work with me, you know this kid better than I do. I want you to tell me, and we diagnose together your child with autism. I want you to continue to monitor your child's development. I want you to look for different deficits or weaknesses in your kid. Now, I don't want you to deny those things either. So I don't want you to look at your child and because you are compensating for their behaviors, you automatically think that's not autism. Or I'm not going to let other people work with my kid. Or you are doing other things to block that process. When I watch parents, sometimes I see parents who will have a challenge with moving back from their kids so that I can see how they develop on their own or how they do things, at age level. And it's okay. We're parents. We're used to taking care of our kids, but you have to let other professionals help you so that we can compare the developmental milestones in your kid toward other kids who are your child's age. However, what you observe in your kids is valid. It's valid. For example, if you saw your child stimming, for example, stimming can be rocking back and forth. Stimming can be spinning, walking in circles. Stimming is just a self-stimulatory behavior. Sometimes these babies do it when they're overwhelmed and they need to calm down. Stimming can be hand flapping. Okay? These are the things that you notice in these babies. If you do, what I would like to see you do is to talk to your pediatrician. Let your pediatrician know. I know that some of the pediatricians have been giving parents a hard time. Listen, I have some challenges with pediatricians. I'm not going to lie to you all about that. I hear about horror stories every day. Not to mention some of these kids are given medication without proper evaluations. And obviously that's not all pediatricians, but that's just my little, pet peeve about some of the practices that some do. Don't argue me on that one because I hear about that stuff every day from parents who are upset. Now, the reason that you need to talk to your pediatrician is because on the other hand, they have a lot of resources to help you. They have a lot of resources to help you, especially about developmental social disorders like autism. Typically what they'll do is they will refer you after they've done their checks of language, growth and if these kids are acquiring language at the appropriate developmental rates. For example, 18 months. This is when social skills start to really develop and emerge and grow with the typical world, right? Remember I said 18 months is about that time where we can diagnose kids with autism too. So at that point, right then and there, something may not be merging together, okay? And that's when you talk to your pediatrician, and your pediatrician will refer you for testing or tell you other ways to have your child evaluated pending on their age. Now, if they are about 3 years old, of course, you can consult with your public school district, right? You can call your early childhood program and say, hey, I'd like to request testing because I am noticing speech delays, delays in social communication. I'm noticing restrictive and repetitive behaviors in my kid. You know, my kid is pacing the floor all day. My kid has these odd mannerisms that they're doing, and I think my child has autism. You are well within your right to ask for an evaluation. You can ask for a comprehensive behavior evaluation from other agencies as well. But what I like is when parents, even if they come to, for example, an agency like mine, I like it when you take that information and you go back to your early childhood program, your public early childhood program, and you give them your paperwork, tell them your child has autism and a language impairment, and whatever other diagnosis they may have, and then you talk to the school about an evaluation because you want an individualized education plan. You want that to include all tests relevant to your child's symptoms. So that's the second thing that you do. So what are actual symptoms of autism? You always want to divide autism up into two symptoms, two sets of symptoms. One, you want to deal with social communication. The second one is you want to deal with restricted and repetitive behaviors, okay? What's social communication? Back and forth conversations, right? Social engagement, social interactions, different things social, okay? Is your child using his or her social skills at developmental level? By 2 years old, your child should be having back and forth conversations, which will get better over time, of course, as they get older. Your child should be using imaginative play. Your child should be using social play. Your child at that point should be turn taking, cooperating in play. One of the greatest things when I was getting my doctorate that my advisor taught us in our lab was to observe kids play. You get a wealth of information by watching kids play. So, for example, is your child solitary? So, if you take your child to the playground, all of the kids are playing in the playground. I talk with my hands a lot. You can tell I work with kids, so I talk with my hands a lot. All the kids are playing on the playground, and your child may go near them, may even look at them, won't play with them, and prefers to play by themselves. Solitary play. That's not typical for most kids. Most kids see other kids and they want to socially engage and they want to play. Some children with autism prefer to be by themselves. Okay? You want to watch for eye contact. Are they avoiding eye contact? Are they just avoiding it? If you can see me on Facebook or Instagram, will they sustain their eye contact? Will they hold it like this? Will they engage in joint play? Joint play is taking a ball back and forth, sitting down with you with the book. It's that 3-point contact that we look at. Eye contact, social engagement. It is the ability to perform the action. We look at all those things. gesture? That is important. Are they making friends? Gesture would be no, it would be yes, it would be using the hands, it would be pointing. Are they able to use their eyes and point like this? If you use a gesture and point, will your kids follow it? Okay. And so when it comes to restrictive and repetitive behaviors, this is when we go into the behavioral component. Are your kids hand flapping? Kind of like this. When they're excited or at random times, are they rocking back and forth when they're excited, or at random times, are they spinning? Spinning in circles. Spinning is kind of cute when they spin in circles. It is. I always smile when they spin because they're just in their own world, and it's just kind of cute to me. Um, Let me think. Are they pacing the floor? Things like that. Do you see them lining up their toys? Lining up their toys. And if you try to move those toys, are they ready to fight you? Are they ready to say, put my toys back? And then the other thing is, are they rigid and restrictive? Do they have patterns of behavior that you consider rituals? Things that they have to do. Those are the things that you look for. Also, how do they do in large crowds, which would be more social communication. When it comes to, restrictive and repetitive behaviors, these are some of the things that will stand out as well. Sensory. Okay, you have to think in terms of sensory needs. So chewing on their clothes, chewing on items, things in their mouths. Are they covering up their ears? Is it too much to go to the grocery store? Do they have to wear headphones? Are they staring at lights? Are they staring at mirrors? Are they looking at different wheels on the cars, like little toy cars? Do they like the car, the wheels spinning? Are they looking at ceiling fans, so spinning objects? Do they like dropping objects repeatedly? It's more like repetitive behaviors. Just love it. They just sit there and watch it over and over again. Those are the things that you look for, some of them, as symptoms for autism. So if you see some of those behaviors or more, this is when you want to start moving toward getting an evaluation. Okay, because you do want them diagnosed. When we talk about early childhood, these interventions are going to be important for them to function in school. Okay, remember, these kids are so cute and cuddly. I love them, but they're going to grow up on you guys. Believe me, I know. My kids are cute and cuddly now, but they're as big as I am or taller, right? My girls are definitely taller than me. And so you want to get them diagnosed really early, and I'll tell you why. Number one, and I want to make that clear, some kids that have symptoms of autism or are diagnosed with autism are aggressive, okay? Now, if you are getting toys thrown at you, even if it's just for attention, do you want those toys thrown at you when these kids are 16? There's always a question or some type of variation of that question that I ask, because some parents tend to think, I don't want my kids being helped by other professionals because I can do it. No, you can't. We have to teach you how to do it. And your kid's going to grow up. And that's the part that parents forget. You're raising an adult. You're not raising a child. Your child's going to turn into an adult. So you have to get, interventions put in place. So for example, when the kids go to early childhood, right? If this kid has autism or is going to be tested for autism by the school district, once they meet the diagnosis, and they have an IEP, an individualized education education plan, in that IEP, one of the reasons that you do all of the rating scales that we give is because what we're doing is we're trying to see the severity of symptoms and what we need to do in order to support your child, right? And so when we do that, that's how we are able to create IEPs as well. And so in that IEP, what you want to put in it are goals that are going to increase your child's social communication. So for example, that can be working with the social worker in school 30 minutes a week, along with the speech language pathologist who's going to work on pragmatics as well. But also, if they're not speaking, speech language pathologists, listen, if you don't use one for your child that has autism, you are really missing out on the type of services that they can give because they have magic skills. I'm a big fan of speech language pathologists. One helped one of my kids. So I'm telling you, get them on board to help. They work wonders with getting kids with autism to speak, the ones who cannot speak yet. I always stay positive with kids. The other thing is with the restrictive and repetitive behaviors, and occupational therapists, physical therapists, they have magic skills as well. They work very well to decrease those behaviors in children. And one of the biggest things you can do is to put your kids into applied behavior analysis. Now, there is controversy with applied behavior analysis, so let's just talk about it briefly. I am a behaviorist, and I'm going to advocate for ABA every day, all day long, because it works. It works. Now, some are against ABA, and this is why. They would rather for us to go into the world of the autistic child, if that makes sense. So they are typically in their own world. So they want us to go into their world and life should be okay, right? That's not the case. And you want these kids on their own one day. You all want to be grandmas and grandpas and have your houses to yourselves. You don't let us train these kids, that may not happen. Now listen, ABA is hard on parents, and I'll tell you why. First of all, we're going to give you a treatment plan. That treatment plan is going to go along with what you want to see happen as well. But you got to let ABAs work with the kids. They work with them one-on-one by themselves. Some agencies will work with these kids all day to get them ready for school and even help them while they're in school. It has been empirically proven to work for many years, and it does. And you all know I'm not going to lie to the public about that. It does. Now, I would love to be able to go into the world of a child with autism or an adult with autism and understand how they view the world, right? But that's not how the world works, and that's the controversy. We can't do it. We can't do it. So we have to train them to be able to use the kind of social communication that we use, that we know, and that will help them thrive, right? That's what we want to do. So if you decide to use speech language pathologists, occupational therapists, physical therapists if you need it, and by the way, occupational therapists address fine motor skills and some of the other behaviors that you see. Some kids grip like this. We don't want them to grip like this. Occupational therapists know how to fix that or how to help them over time hold their pencils correctly, for example. Now, here's the other thing. This combined treatment, speech language pathology, occupational therapy, the kids might do physical therapy, if they qualify. And then ABA, applied behavior analysis, your kids can absolutely do it all. That's scary to parents. They always ask, is it too much? No, you want to give them everything while they're little. So by the time, my goal is always second grade. That's my personal goal, even working in schools. By the time these babies are in second grade, you will see you will see a difference. Will they always have autism? Yes. Yes. But does it have to be a disability? No. Now, technically it is. We know that. We're not stupid, right? But does it always have to significantly impact their daily living? No. What it can do, however, is to what it can do, however, is to get better with training. And that's the point. Don't wait to act. Get this done for your kid. If you see these symptoms, early intervention is best. I want you to do this ASAP. Okay? If your child is 2.5, 3, call your early childhood programs. Let them know what's happening. Um, and the other thing is, you know, most parents want to know if their kids are high functioning or low functioning. You know that. Everybody will ask, is my kid high functioning? Is my kid low functioning? What is my child's functioning, right? We talk about that in terms of support. You talk about that in terms of support because it's misleading. Now, other people might say high functioning, low functioning. Probably shouldn't, and I do not do that because I focus on development. I focus on treatment plans. I focus on IEPs. I focus on interventions. I focus on services. So to me, it's all right not to talk about these kids in terms of whether they're high functioning or low functioning. The way that I describe it for all of you other clinicians listening is high and low. I'm sorry, level 1, level 2, and level 3. Level 1 being the highest, 2 in the middle, and then 3 being more severe symptoms. Okay? It's how you articulate it to parents. They understand if you are very careful with how you talk to them about those levels and you have them help you, because that's what I do. I have my parents help me diagnose. I have them help me rate symptoms. I have them help me choose which levels sound best for their kids. So in the end, they are on board with whatever we decide between myself and the parents to do, diagnose, and the kind of interventions that the kids need. So you partner with your parents and do it as a team, as opposed to telling them, this is what it is, this is how you do it, this is what you need to do. They don't need that. They just want to partner with you to help their kid. And so do that with them because it makes it easier and it makes it helpful for them so that they'll understand why you're not telling them high functioning or low functioning or what else is going on. Give me 1 second, please. I am going to do something real quick. Okay. All right. I'm going to deal with something I just did in a minute, but let's finish up this podcast for autism. I love talking about autism. I hope that's coming across because I really do. It's one of my favorite conditions. The other one is ADHD. So we all have to talk about ADHD pretty soon. All right. So being a parent is not easy. It is definitely not easy if you have a child with a disability. I understand. So listen, you all have to take care of your mental health as well. I would like for you to not only participate in ABA, but to possibly seek some type of therapy yourself. Because a lot of parents have dreams and aspirations and ideologies. Some of us have dreams for our kids, and our kids go beyond what we thought they would go, where we thought they would go, right? And so when your child is diagnosed with autism, sometimes parents feel guilty and they cry. What did I do wrong? Is this going to go away? How do I help this? What can I do differently? Is it my genetics? They feel guilty. They feel shame. They feel confused. And you know what? They are exhausted. So, what do I always say about taking care of your mental health? That you have got to rest. They don't rest. Learning to take care of a child that has symptoms of autism is hard. If you don't believe me, just look at TikTok and all the parents posting about what they do, from food to behavior to daily routines that some of us probably take advantage of, homework, dinner, bath, bed. It's very hard. It's very hard on these parents. And actually, let me tell you guys, I don't think we do enough to support our parents, which is why I want to talk about this. The adjustment to this is hard on our parents. So here's what I would like for you all to do. I want you to make sure that you are getting the treatment you need to adjust to this. Make sure you have support. There are so many Facebook groups, and I heard today that there are groups on Instagram too for parents that have children with autism. I want you to reduce your stress. So if you do need a therapist, it's all right to get one. And you know what, parents, it's all right to say, you know what, this crap is hard. I'm tired. I'm worn out. Sometimes I don't know what to do. I don't know how to cope. My kid's hitting me. I need a break. Some parents will keep going and going and going until they burn out. So what I want to see you do is to work with a therapist who can help you manage your stress. So while you have your kids at ABA, because I want you all to do ABA, while you have your kids and getting their therapy, I want you to get your therapy as well, to find some joy in the changes that you're going to go through with these kids. And remember, they're going to become teenagers too. We all need therapy when our kids are teenagers. That's me too. I've been through it once. I got to go through it 2 more times. And so I'm here to tell you, we all need a little help, when our kids are teenagers. So imagine that. And then you add hormones and, oh man, all of the changes that you go through when it comes to, teenagers. But then add autism on top of that. That's really hard. It is. And so autism is not a terminal illness. It's a different way of learning. Once you learn how to deal with individuals with autism or your kids with autism, and it's a different way of learning for you and your child, then you'll feel more comfortable. You won't feel as guilty. You won't feel that confusion. And you will not only feel better, but you'll start to see things more positive. I always tell this story. I'm going to be careful how I say this, though. I worked at the university level with disabilities, and I'm trying to find ways of telling this story. And it's because I really love my parents, and I want you guys to feel positive about this. I know it's not easy on you. And so when I worked at that level, my clients had autism, right? And they all majored in, they all had majors that I couldn't do. For example, engineering. Yeah, all of that math. I like math, but engineering is on like a different level. Physics, right? I dropped physics when I was in high school. And chemistry, right? And the main challenges that these individuals had, and it was funny because I felt like I had a bunch of kids sometimes because they were like, say when we want to date her, because they didn't have that social communication component. So we used to write down different things that they could actually say to get dates, navigating their way on campus, you know. Um, those were the kind of things that they did. But listen, they were in college, they were living in the dorms, they were off campus by themselves, they were happy, they were healthy, you know. And so the reason that I always tell that story, and I had to guard it as best as I could, but I think you all get the point, which is they're okay. They're going to be okay. Remember, they have you, they have other professionals like me. You know, they are getting the needed help and support and time. Give them time to adjust to all these things, give them time to change. So, with all of that in mind, I think they're going to be okay, right? They're going to be okay. We all have something, and these kids have autism. You all let me know if you have questions about that. I am big on ADHD, big on autism. I want to see these kids succeed, and I want to hear that parents are okay. Parents, you are going to be okay. All right. So, I want to address something that came up in my podcast as I was talking. Yep. Now, somebody chimed in on my podcast and said that they, I'm going to tell you exactly what they said. I think it was something to the point of, oh, I feel like suicide on the podcast as I was talking. Remember, guys, when I paused? Okay. Please don't put that in my podcast. You can call a suicide hotline, 988. I don't typically respond to those things because I'm not going to be responsible. So we're going to end that there. You guys can call the suicide hotline. You can contact people in your area. Some people chime in on the podcast live and they say something that they shouldn't, either just to distract me or just to be a butthead. Now, I take suicide seriously, and you all should too. I take homicidal ideation seriously because it is obviously a concern of mine, but it's also federal and state law. You have to take those things seriously, but don't do that. My career, my time over 20 plus years, my engagement with the audience is really important to me. So please don't do that. Don't play games like that. The other thing is, hold on, Instagram. Let me pull my phone here. I'm going to take a snapshot of it and say it publicly. What I'm getting ready to say to you is, sorry, Instagram, I had to stop that because I needed to take a picture of it, is that I am going to report that. And I'm going to report it because that's not okay. That's not okay to do. All right. Let's go into what we are going to talk about next week. And I believe we are talking about teenage girls, but I'm looking on the blog now just to make sure. 11. Doing stuff like that. It truly distracts me. And I don't want that to happen because we were having a really good conversation, about autism. And many, many parents listen because they truly want to know, what's happening and how to deal with this. And they appreciate learning it from an actual psychologist. So don't take advantage of the field like that and come in and say something like that. Okay. So the next vlog is going to be all about the things I wish I had known in the field of psychology. And the reason that we are going to do that is because I like to answer questions that come in about psychology. Because listen, there are a lot of things that I wish I had known about this field. And sometimes when I look back, if I had known those things, I probably would not be in this field talking to all of you. I'd be a marine biologist somewhere living in Miami or the Bahamas working with dolphins. So I'm going to share that with all of you next week. Until then, you all have a good night. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you learned a lot about autism. Bye bye.